Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Alexis University. This success series will be a little bit different. I sat down and talked to 14 different millennials about their journey to success. Each week, we will bring you their interviews, so make sure you stay tuned.
My name is Ashleigh Williams. I'm a business development manager at Microsoft. So what that means in plain words is I drive strategic partnerships so that Microsoft can land deals in some of our key industries, those industries being healthcare, financial services, and public sector.
So can you tell us a little bit about your college experience, like where you went to school, if you started off with the major that you had, and then, or did you change your major while you was in college?
Yeah, so I went to Hampton University. It's crazy that I went to Hampton because I really wanted to go to like a really big college, I wanted to go to UNC or like Duke or University of Virginia, but I didn't realize the cost of those schools and like how important scholarship money was. So even for the ones, I got in, but Hampton gave me the opportunity to graduate college debt free, which at the time was so I got a scholarship. So at the time that was very important to me. Growing up, like finance and personal finance has always been big, even before college. So I value the importance of not having to go in debt. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't think that I was originally gonna go to a HBCU. So I got there and I was like, I'll try it out for a year. If I don't like it, transfer, talking all this big stuff. And I loved it. I actually like really loved it. I met some of my closest friends there. My major was business administration, and I chose that because Hampton has a 5-year MBA program. So you can go straight to get your MBA if you want to. I opted to leave at my 4th year. You have the option to do that, but I thought it was cool that they even had that opportunity. So they were really strong in business. And I would say that my experience at Hampton, to be honest, like really shaped how I viewed the workplace as well. Like a lot of people say if you go to an HBCU, you're going to be equipped with the right toolkit to compete in a quote unquote white world or a world where you're in the minority. But I think going to an HBCU actually teaches you how to be confident in your own skin. So for me, it was a great experience.
You talked about being debt free. Do you feel like you're at an advantage over people who have to pay back student loans?
Yes, I definitely do. And I didn't realize how much of an advantage it would be until talking to like my peers that are actually going through it. Like now, and also in addition to being debt free, I saved a lot of money. I had a good savings in college as well. So like when I started working post grad, my thought was just, savings, investing. I never thought about having to give the government back money or private corporations back money. And then in addition to that, a lot of times you're paying heavy interest rates as well. So it's taking forever for people, to pay that money back. So thankfully, I do feel like I'm in a good place to I guess jumpstart, my career and also my savings.
And you talked about the fact that you feel like the HBCU you went to prepared you and made you feel more confident in your work, because that was one of the reasons why I chose to go to a PWI, because I felt like nowhere that I was going to go was everybody going to look like me. But can you just talk a little bit more about that and how you feel like they prepared you for the workplace?
Yeah, so I will talk HBCU specific and then Hampton specific. So more broadly with HBCUs, I think it's interesting that you also have professors that look like you've been through very similar experiences, whether it was corporate or they, establish a career in the educational sector. They're giving you like real life tips based off of their experiences. So some of the knowledge wasn't even coming out of a book. It was just like my professors telling me, hey, this is what you need to do to maneuver. And it was coming from a place of love, which I thought was actually pretty genuine at the time. And then also Hampton specifically, within the business program that I was in, we had this program called LAP, which is the Leadership Application Program. So every week, executives would come to my class. We would have to wear suits, like full suits, have to dress up every week and ask these executives from top companies, Goldman Sachs, Google, just Morgan Stanley, like a lot of these tech companies, questions. We would get up in front of them, people would introduce them. So at that point, before ever even stepping into a corporation, I was very familiar with how to engage with an executive because Hampton had a pipeline for every week for me to meet these executives. So that, I guess, nurtured confidence and allowed me to start thinking about, okay, what are the types of questions you ask an executive? What do I look for in a mentorship relationship? How do you move in corporate America? It was a part of my curriculum for me to even graduate. So that was a huge asset when I was thinking about, the program in the school I was at.
And then you talked about the fact that Hampton has a 5-year program and you only did the 4-year program. Do you regret not taking that extra year to have your MBA? Would you go back and do things differently?
So to answer your question, I don't, because an MBA is actually still a personal goal of mine. Actually, so I want to get my MBA in the next couple of years. I actually want to just get it from a different institution.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I just wanted a different experience. So don't regret it at all. I've seen, people do it both ways.
What do you think helped you prepare for life after college?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so it's a couple of things. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So when I think about life after college, I would think about different buckets. So like I said, personal finance has been big for me. So like the fact that my parents set me up to have a savings when I was like a little girl, that set me up. I didn't even know when I was a kid how good that would set me up in the future. Two, my HBCU experience, my college experience in general. And then I think three, to be honest, I think a lot of your experiences after college, how do I say this? A lot of your experiences after college and how you move after college is a product of, I think, your environment and how you've had to like navigate life. So I touched briefly on finance. Second, school, like I made amazing friendships. And also, I'm not sure if you've heard of this term, but there's a thing called the HBCU runaround where you basically
No.
have to like, okay, so the HBCU runaround is like, while I love my HBCU, they're sometimes getting to administration and getting things done. It can be a slower process. So like they might, if you need something from, I don't know, the registrar's office, they might point you to student affairs, who might point you back to the registrar. It's just like an entire runaround. So, but that taught me perseverance, right? Like it taught me like, okay, not to just give up on the first time someone tells me no. And then also, I think that I received a quality education, so that was, of course, helpful as well. And then lastly, life experiences. So I'm really big on family. I'm really big on valuing relationships as well. So anytime I can learn from someone else, whether it was through their experiences or something that they shared from me, I think all has contributed to like my life after college and even some of the decisions I think about making on a daily basis.
And then did you have any internships while you were in college that helped you prepare for your role now? Or do you think you just were able to wing it once you got the full-time job?
So yeah, my journey was very purposeful. So right after freshman year, I interned with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and a lot of these terms, even though I was a business major, my focus was mainly finance. So this is for all my finance folks out there, but the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, that's the regulatory firm that manages all that goes on Wall Street with the big banks. So I interned with them after my freshman year. My sophomore year, I interned at KPMG, which is a major accounting company. Didn't like that. They were cool, but I just didn't like the experience. Going into my third internship, which was going into my senior year, I was like my dream company. I interned at Goldman Sachs. Experience was cool. Like I learned a ton. I would probably say even to this day, even going to Microsoft included, I think I learned the most at Goldman Sachs. I just didn't think that it was the right time for me to be there. And then I think all those shaped my experience going into Microsoft. What I will say is going to Microsoft, I had to do a lot of different functions that I never did in any of those internships. So it was a big ramp. And my current role is not in finance anymore. So that's an even bigger ramp. So I think anytime you're ramping onto a new job, you just got to be confident in like your abilities, but also don't be afraid to ask questions. And that's one thing that I've been like working through, being open to asking questions, but still leaning on your past experiences.
What lessons do you think you learned while you were in college?
Yeah. Okay, I got to think on that one. Okay, so one is, never give up and be comfortable with your own journey. And the reason I say that was a big lesson was because coming from an HBCU, thinking about some of the experiences and the companies I wanted to work for, what I wanted to do, not gonna lie to you, Lex, I was like, dang, they're kids from Harvard and Stanford that have these big school names, and like, will they notice, someone coming from Hampton? And then I had to be okay and comfortable with my journey, and be okay and trust the experiences I got. So that was a big lesson that I learned. Also, like I told you, I'm big on relationships. So the value of friendship and being there for others when they feel like they can't be there for themselves. Like I feel like that was a big lesson that I learned in college as well. And then lastly, I think, and this kind of goes off both points, the importance of a network and keeping and establishing a network. Like some of the experiences I talked to you about earlier, the professional experiences, I'm still in touch with those people to this day if I were to ever need anything. So even if you decide an opportunity is not for you at the moment, like to the best of your abilities, don't burn a bridge. Always leave on a good note. If you can, try to make sure you're always getting a return offer and let that be your decision if you don't want to come back. Never let it affect your performance. Stuff like that. I think those are big lessons in addition to the importance of community and culture. I think those are big lessons that I learned from college.
Do you think anybody helped you make a decision about going to college? So I know some people, their parents was like, you're going to college, I don't care. Whereas other people, like their parents was like, if you want to go, that's up to you. Do you think anybody helped shape like your decision?
That's a funny question because growing up, I always envisioned, like I said, always wanted to go to school, just wanted to go to a big school. But I wouldn't say my parents had to like strong arm me or nothing. But I guess in a sense they did influence me all my life. Like it was talked about as a natural next step. For me, I didn't at the time have a trade that I was specifically like super passionate about. So it wasn't an option between college or trade school because it wasn't like I was super passionate about, doing hair or makeup or something. That might have been a different story if I was. But I will say my aunt actually, she influenced a ton my decision to Hampton because she worked for United Negro College Fund for most of her career, and they give a lot of scholarships to African Americans. And she just knew about their business school. She was like, Ashleigh, if you don't go to their business school, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. So she influenced the where, but I would say my parents over time influenced like the thought of college for sure.
Okay. And so what do you think is like your next steps? Like right now you're working at Microsoft. Do you see yourself staying there forever? Do you want to do something different? Like what do you think is next for you? What are some of your goals in life?
That's a really loaded question because to answer your question, no, I don't want to stay at Microsoft forever. I actually am super passionate about these things are really random and I don't know how I'm gonna put them together, but I'm really passionate about personal finance. I'm passionate about like entertainment and culture. And I'm passionate about like raising capital and funds for people in my community. So the way I see that intersecting somehow, some way is basically being, a financial advisor for people that are in a space of influence. And the reason I say those people because not only can I help guide them think about like, okay, how do you spend your money? I can also guide them on what investments make sense for you to make back into our community. So there are organizations that are quote unquote venture capital firms, and venture capital for people in finance is basically people who invest in startups. There are particular venture capital firms that invest in new businesses or startups that are particularly focused on bringing minorities businesses to light and helping grow minority businesses. Something like that would be like amazing or like a dream job for me while also helping people in finance. So that, I know it's kind of like super specific, but that's low-key what I'm passionate about.
I mean, you got to follow your passions because if not, you won't be happy every day. It'll become a drag.
Very true. Very true. So yeah, the answer, Microsoft for now. Also, I'm trying to get out of Seattle, so fingers crossed. but we'll see how this all ties in.
So for students who are in college right now, how would you suggest they start budgeting for themselves, or what type of financial plan should they be looking into right now?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because a lot of times when you're in college, sometimes you forget to think about that. I have a couple tips in that area. One huge one is any jobs that you have, any internship experiences that you have, try to make your expenses low. So for me, one thing that helped was I interned in areas where, I knew that I would either be able to stay with someone or stay with my family or whatever. And while I'm not negating the importance of getting away from home, I also had a balance of those experiences. I think try to keep your expenses as low as possible and save as much money over time during those internship experiences. And what savings can look like can be a savings, a traditional savings, or investing, however you want it to look for you. In addition to that, think about the experiences like your homecoming, your dances, or whatever. When you are paying for those experiences, I would create a budget so you don't go over, because it's so easy to spend a lot of money on bottles, clothes, whatever. Create a budget, realize that this experience is probably for the weekend or for the week, and that you still right, and then you still have to eventually, you're gonna have to pay for your food and all that stuff. So create a budget for those big events, I think is so good. I can speak to the ladies out there. Find a friend that can help you do some things, like maybe your hair, your nails, whatever, so you don't have to keep paying these businesses an arm and a leg. That helped a ton for me. And then if you want to learn how to do it yourself, like that's always an option as well. And then as you get to the end of college, hopefully at that point you saved a ton. You've kind of navigated college, try to finesse a couple of things for a cheaper way. Then that's when you need to start thinking about, okay, I have this amazing job offer. If you have a job offer at the end of college, if you don't, think about a budget that you want to take forward. So before I even started Microsoft, before I even graduated Hampton, I had a budget on what I wanted my finances to look like post-grad based off, I was blessed enough to have an offer with Microsoft, but based off of what that salary looked like, I knew how much I wanted to go towards each place. And every year after that, I set an annual savings goal for myself. So before you even graduate, before you hit your first paycheck, you need to have a budget on what that could look like, because all of your amazing, I would say, strategies that you had in college can just go to waste if you get to the real world as soon as you get your first paycheck and you don't know how to act. So those are like the simple tips I would give someone immediately. Yeah.
Do you have any last words of wisdom for students who are either entering college or who are in college now, or maybe at the finish line?
Yeah, so for people that are entering college or looking at college, the piece of advice I give to you is do your research on scholarships. Don't negate the fact that debt is real. Do your research on the type of school you're looking to go to. I don't know, maybe environment matters to you, the program matters to you, but every time you switch universities, that's an additional cost in some way, shape, or form. So make sure you do your research. For people that are in college, make sure you're valuing these, 4 or 5, however many years it might be. Make sure you value those experiences. Do things that you feel like you've never done before, because those years really do fly by. There are some things that I look back and like, dang, I wish I would have maybe tried this. So value those experiences. And people that are at the finish line, what I would say is think back on all the key relationships that you had throughout the time, figure out how you're going to maintain them and go forward in them, but also realize that you have your entire life ahead of you to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, and the only person that can get it in the way of that is yourself. So, and congratulations to whoever is, at the finish line. That's the biggest thing I would say.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining Alexis University today. It has definitely been a pleasure, especially hearing about your HBCU experience. Because like I said, I went to a PWI, so I have no idea what it's like to go to a HBCU. And now, like, listening to you, I'm like, man, I wish I would have picked an HBCU instead of my PWI.
It's okay. You're always welcome at homecomings, girl.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Success Series. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel to get alerted for the next video.